Once again, from my side, thank you everyone for coming to this session. I hope that you will enjoy it. And today we will give an overview of some of the challenges that companies are facing when it comes to data systems, and what are some of the hot topics today, and how they can help us with resolving our challenges. So let's start. First of all, I have a question for you, Darko. What are some of the challenges that companies are facing these days in data systems?
You have a lot of challenges there, depending of what we try to achieve. It's a lot of dimensions when you're talking about challenges, but we want to satisfy our user, and we want to satisfy our business. In my career, mostly working in the beginning on data warehouse, and mostly always I see this kind of challenges. Data is not the same on the source system like in the business report, or how many people you need to create some little change request, because it is just one column and one calculation in report, but you don't have data and you need to ingest it. Also in context of escalation, about numbers potential that are wrong. If you see this, you will see that we have agility problem, we have problem with data quality, we have problem with accuracy of data, and so on. So this is, I will say, mostly challenge to try data as a product fix with data mesh. So this is mostly what is.
Okay. So basically, if you look at these challenges, if you had this presentation, let's say 5 years ago, probably we will have most of these challenges as we have today.
Yeah.
So
and we have today now. So.
You said that we will speak about data mesh and data product and how this can help solving these challenges. But before we go into that, let's go step by step and try to look at the challenges from try to group those challenges and start from the top down before we go into resolution.
So here, I would say most challenge their part is how to handled with organizational challenges. So today, mostly data from a data architecture perspective, data warehouse and also data lake that is not, it's quite new from architecture perspective. Problem is how to handle with ownership. Why? Because you have source system, you have complex requirement, and you need to shift the knowledge between those things. And usually when you're working on data warehouse, when something wrong, who is guilty is someone from data warehouse part, your data is not correct, and so on. So I think that ownership from organizational part is key here, because what data mesh try to do is shift ownership of your data directly to the business. Another part is architecture, because data warehouse, data lake, and also new platform like data lake is monolithic, which means that you're collecting the data and store in one location. And later, data lake, for example, you have some keyword that mentioned that this is data swamp. Why? Because you are ingesting a lot of data, and if you don't have good data governance and you don't have good data lineage process, you will over time lose where data actually exists for your requirements. Also, we need to think about technical debt, because we will always have a legacy code, or we will always have number of people in the huge number of people in development, and also we speak about very complex requirements. From operational part, usually what we have data governance. Traditional data warehouse is disconnected from real flow of data, from technical data that really exists. So idea is also that we need to shift this data governance things, the handling, how to measure data, apply data observability. You need to directly incorporate in your data products and your development process immediately. And also in context of infrastructure, yeah, you need to have some kind of distributed system that will handling your products.
It seems to me that we heard something similar a couple of times during this day. Even Mr. Fisnik, who is here, who delivered a great speech 1 hour ago, said that this organizational part after culture is really, really important. And I agree with that completely. I hope that you too. Because if you look 15 years back, we introduced data lakes. And we hope that data lakes and big data will solve all our problems. And after that, we figured out, oh, that will not solve all our problems, but okay, we are moving forward. And then now we have some new architectures. We have data fabrics. We have a lot of buzzwords. And most of those terms are technical terms. And they are definitely helping us. But if you agree with me, we should definitely first resolve these organizational problems. So my suggestion is that we focus on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you can tell me, what can we do on organizational level? And are there some things that we did before in other parts of IT that we can apply in data as well, so that we resolve this people problem, let's say?
Yeah, I think that's hardest part is working on domain level. We will see the slide later. But what is problem with centralized data warehouse and also data lakes that we look at is because it's some kind of defensive way how you handling with your data. Which mean what mean that? Because you need to have complex requests or requirements, and you need to have business analysts, data analysts to resolve what actually you need. Then you need to data architect who will produce the data models. Depending over time, you have Kimball from star schema, you will have a data vault for system of record part, but all these things is a different model, which means that require transformation from the source system, because those structure is not the same. So you have ETL process, transform load to transform that. And then you also have trouble with data quality, because you have transformed from one source, one point of view to another. And this is it's very hard part how you integrate your data. And also what is problem is because you have schema and you have historical data, so it's hard coupled. So it's very problem. It's very problem when you need to produce some kind of small changes, because it's not just reload the data, because you need to reload a lot of data and it's required the time. So it's not the same. So I think that this is the point when we need to speed up more our development and our process, how we will develop. And this is why data mesh with data products came in place.
Okay. So we have overloaded data teams.
Yep.
We need to do something about it.
Yep.
And
yeah, first step is define the data domain ownership. So what is required is ability to scale data set and push to the business side. Why? Because business side understand the data, understand the business process, and understand how to push the data to the other stakeholders. Also, what idea is that inside of your domain, then you don't have data warehouse team, then you have AI team, etc. Idea is that you have in your own domain. Why? Because you want to close the gap between the real data that exists on operational system and also of analytical use cases. You want to have the same data. And from technical perspective, we have, like, for example, CQRS, that you have transaction, single version of the truth, and on top of that, you are building projection, aggregation on the same data. So I think that idea is that first you need to push, I would say, data sharing responsibility to the business domain. From how to do that, definitely most popular things that you apply domain-driven design and you have domain storytelling, and this is, I would say, starting point when you want to, I would say, segregate all of your domain functionalities here. So maybe we can.
Yeah, we've now built a solid foundation to finally explain to our audience what is data mesh.
Yeah, so data mesh is relatively new. This image is from a book, Data Mesh by Zhamak Dehghani. She introduced this concept in 5 years old, maybe, and it became very popular. Why? Because it solves problems that we are mentioned early. So data mesh have 4 different principles. One is that you need to have domain ownership for that. Then you need to have data as a product. Also, you need to have self-service data platform. So if you want to have data product and build it separate independently on another data product, you need to some kind of self-service data platform, which means that you need for every data product support processing power, containers, everything, and so on. And also, you need to have federated garments. It's not data garments. Try to switch the name because it's totally different approach. You don't see the data on the whole because you see the data what is required by your product, and it's called federated garments.
So is data mesh just a set of these 4 principles, or is it a tool? Is it a library?
No. What Zhamak mentioned is that some kind of sociotechnological pattern, which means that it's not platform, it's not architecture, and it's not definitely it's not some kind of product.
Okay.
So you need to more focus it on domain, on business side to I would say that produce the value proposition and that follow the business model that you want to support.
And each of these domains, in some concrete example, for example, in finance, in some bank, can be different domains. As we also concluded when we introduced microservices and domain-driven design in years that passed when we were not focusing on data and domains but developing applications. Is that the same? So what is the domain? What contains in it?
Domain contain data products. We will see later. But before we start with data products, why we need data products? Because we need to product thinking. If you remember 15 years before when big data started, you see that data is oil of 21st century. So, but another, if you move Gartner, for example, what mentioned is that almost 80% of data is dark data, which means that is not this opportunity that you have with combined with push the business user to start mingling with data, you lose it. So first thing is that included the business and that you apply product thinking in that, which means that your product needs to be usable, viable, and feasible. From implementation part, you don't serve only the data tables or some files. Data product is some kind of multidimensional and definitely contain data, code that is applied, that is built those data, and also policy. And what you see here, one data product can produce different kind of, I would say, data formats, for example. You can produce the data set for event streaming application, for example. Then you have for reporting, you can expose SQL interface. And also for AI, maybe it's good enough that you have Parquet or Avro file stored in some data lake. So idea is here that also build using federated governments that you build trusted and verify data inside of your domain.
It kind of makes sense to treat our data as a product. If we are treating a lot of other things as products, then why shouldn't we treat data as a product? And the important part of handling data as product is having product owners.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
product owners help shape the future of data product that we are building. They decide on what are important features, what is really important for our product to be successful. And when we say successful, how do we measure that? We define different kinds of SLOs, measures for our customers, etc. But
we will deep dive in what data product is. Before, when you start with data warehouse and working with ETLs, you always have extra transform load, which means that you have input data, you transform it, and then you have some kind of people or person who will use those data. And then you have disconnected data garments that will not measure your usage, how you use the data. So what data products introduce? First, control in context of service. You want to build and start, stop, and everything with your data product in automated way using DevOps and data operational. You also want to, from control part, you want to automatically register your data product in data product catalog. Why data product catalog next port is? Because you want to produce the discovery functionality in context of democratization of the data. It's something like try to push user experience, the same thing like you are browsing the Amazon.com. You find some products. In the same thing, using the data catalog, it's right to see for example, which data product is best for my marketing campaign with most accurate customer contacts, for example. And list me customer that does not have any transaction last 6 months. So idea is that you have a list of data set, and then you have data set have explain what product is, what feature contain, what level of data quality is, how is rating, how people discuss with those data product. So this is one of key things. So you promote the process of democratization data that as soon as possible push all the meta information critical that can be business and technical to the business stakeholders. And also observability. So idea is what you ask, how we measure that. So in context of measure, we have different kind views. For example, data quality, you need to specify threshold, and over time you need to check how data is defined. Observability means also how often you use that data product. For now, you don't see, for example, which ETL is working on every day, but no one, for example, using output of that ETL. So idea is that apply data observability, and this is key things that you can store in data catalog and producing over time. But key thing is that in development phase, when you design data product, that you need apply these things in specification. And a crucial thing is definitely that you have data contract. This is, I would say, some keyword that is, I would say, very crucial in data mesh environment. Maybe we can switch to another. So what is data contract? Data contract is agreement between producer of data and consumer of data. So for example, on this picture, you have 3 data products. 2 products depend on the first one. So you have 2 different instances and 2 different contracts. What contain contract? Contracts contain a lot of parameters with variables that you store in data catalog. And also, you will see if you see this picture, it's the data lineage. So a crucial part of data catalog is that you have data lineage, but with knowledge graph, which means that you have new artifacts, for example, like data contract, that you can associate with the producer and to consumer, and you can search who is owner, who is responsible for example, for schema in the data product, different kind of service level objectives, parameters, for example, what is error rating, and so on. So data contract contain technical business information. From business part, for example, is data quality. matrix, but also need to have information like what is scope is, what is channel is, what is, I would say, good enough quality that we have in data product. Also, data contract, I would say, force to use the standard in your organization, and also integrate for data observability that you have responsibility person for something. Because if you think about table, it's not possible that one person is relevant or be owner on one table, because you have many different activity that you use in your data. Someone is responsible for schema, someone for data quality, and so on. So we need to have data observability and stewardship model defined also in data contract. And also, idea is that you measure things and apply some predictive model that you want to decrease errors of the systems.
Cool. We covered all theoretical topics that we had for this session. In the next slide, we would like to spend a couple of more minutes, we have around 5 more minutes, to give our audience a concrete tool, an example of how they can start on their data product journey. But before we do that, I would just like to do a short recap of what we covered so far. So definitely throughout this entire conference, we identified that organizational challenges must be resolved first, and then afterwards we will pick appropriate tools, libraries, etc. So in data, we didn't have this mindset so far, and resolving organizational issues through domain ownership is one of the 4 principles of data mesh. Zhamak Dehghani, that you mentioned, who coined the term data mesh, said recently that data mesh as a term will probably disappear in the future and it will not be used, but all of those 4 principles are really important and we need to follow them. And then when we come to implementation part, so we will spread our teams, data teams in different domains, and they will build the data products. They will do ETLs and everything they did so far, but on top of that, we will have a set of data contracts and observability and everything else that is important for us to keep this data product as a good quality product.
Yeah.
And now, if you can please briefly...
That's
briefly,
it, and that's it.
But without going into
I will not go
only areas.
in detail, yeah. This is, maybe some of you see the similar things. This came, I would say, adaptation of customization data product canvas that rely on business model canvas. So what we have here, we have source, we have data product offering, we have customer segments, we have how we will monetize our data, and what kind of policy we need to implement with our data products. In context of value proposition, idea is that you starting before you start design your products with many different domain-driven design technique like domain storytelling or event storming, idea is that you first define the scope of your products, that you define what value is, what value will add your product, which customer, from which channel, and how we will monetize these things. So I think that is a very good starting point before you start producing the design of data products, before you start thinking about data ownership, who is owner, how we apply control ports, observability, and so on. I think that came first from business and directly from value proposition. So
value proposition as a tool or framework helps us to identify what we want to achieve with our product.
Yeah.
And we can apply this not only for designing data products, but other products as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of ideas and concepts from product thinking were applied to data products.
And definitely you need to start from there.
Okay. This last slide is basically a recap that I did on the previous slide, so I won't repeat that. But I would like to give you a chance to ask us any question. I know you probably have a million of them, but yeah, please.
So how you do it? You're starting like MVP. So, for example, if you have who is data owner, for example, you don't know what. One of pioneer of, I would say, data mesh from PayPal, just put the software architect, a data architect in the place, and have 2 person for one role. This is MVP, and this is the first time we implement data mesh and data product thinking. And then you combine the virtual team that is part of data engineers, software engineers, and platform teams also. And you will later you will have the team, and then you will expand over time with another domain, another data product.
Thanks everyone, and if you will have more questions, please find us somewhere on the conference and we will be happy to answer.
Yeah.
And now
Thank you.
coffee break.